You're listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast.
You're listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast. My name is Shawn Wilkie, and along with my awesome co-host, we interview the innovators in this space every week. Super excited about today's guest. Been trying to do this for a couple months. Let's get into it. Ivan, please go ahead and introduce today's guest.
Hey, I'm Ivan Zach. Really excited about our guest today. I don't know much about Leo Trottier other than he's our Canadian friend living in US. But Leo is a unique blend of cognitive scientist, software engineer, product designer, and entrepreneur. And I hope today I will learn what the cognitive scientist is. He is the founder and CEO of Cleverpet, a startup that uses smart hardware to teach pets automatically through advanced cognitive and behavioral science techniques. Before Cleverpet, Leo ran Scholarpedia, which is Wikipedia academic equivalent, where he worked with Nobel laureates to wikify scholarly canons. In 2019, he began developing the FluentPet hex tile system, and in the spring of 2020, began refining it in the collaboration with the Canine AIC test pilots group he brought together. He subsequently launched How They Can Talk.org, the leading forum for individuals teaching button use to dogs and cats. Since its launch, FluentPet has generated over $8 million in revenue and can be found in more than 50,000 homes. Leo, welcome to the show. Thank you for finding the time.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Can we start with defining cognitive scientist? Am I the only dumb person on the call who doesn't know what that does?
Yep.
So maybe it's best to first define cognitive science. So cognitive science is an interdisciplinary or transdisciplinary study of humans and how they are in the world. So it tends to combine a bunch of different disciplines: psychology, computer science, artificial intelligence, statistics, anthropology, etc., into kind of one meta discipline almost. And so, I was, my undergrad degree was in cognitive science and AI at the University of Toronto. And then I was in the PhD program at UC San Diego.
That's crazy. That's so interesting. All right. So everything about meta science of sciences for humans. What the hell are you doing with pets?
The reality is, the more you learn about cognitive science, the more humans aren't that, they're important in cognitive science, obviously, but they're most of the stuff that you're looking at in terms of how brains work, how decisions get made, how memory functions, all of those kinds of mechanisms are typically at least shared with, to a large degree, with other mammals. So you spend a lot of your time kind of learning just how brains work in the general case. And, honestly, people, what differentiates us from non-human animals, it's, probably has a lot to do with our environment and our culture and all the cool things that we've figured out over the last 2,000 years. And it's not really, it's not as big of a difference as a lot of people think it is.
That's awesome, Leo. I was super excited about you coming on the show when we first got introduced to each other, primarily because of one event that happened to me in a particular LinkedIn message that I shared with Ivan a long time ago. So I'm in the speech recognition space, the dictation space, the AI space, helping veterinarians, get their medical records done faster. However, my last company, my previous startup, we did the same thing. And I was at an event in San Francisco, met a bunch of really smart people, and had a really, really intelligent guy reach out to me and say to me, how is it that your software can interpret what animals are saying with their barks and meows into the English language? And I don't know if I ever wrote him back to tell him that that's not what we did, but that was a beautiful segue for you to explain maybe what it is that Cleverpet does.
Yeah, so Cleverpet is the original company. We actually started it ages ago, and our first product was a computer game console for dogs. And it was in 2019 when this speech language pathologist named Christina Hunger, she basically got to 700,000 followers on Instagram showing off this dog that she had taught to use buttons. So she had basically taken the techniques she'd recently learned in her speech language pathology program and had applied them to this new puppy that she had gotten. At the time, they were using these large pieces of plywood and Velcro. It was all DIY. There was no product that would enable or help people to teach their dogs to use buttons. So we actually chatted about potentially collaborating. And a few months later, we didn't end up collaborating, but a few months later, I was collaborating with all the people that had been inspired by her. So there were already thousands of people who were trying to teach their dogs to use buttons. And what the FluentPet Hextile system does is it just lets you position your buttons and organize them in a much more intelligent way.
Yeah, so I think that's
Yeah,
a
we need deeper.
little bit basic. Come on now, let's. What are you actually doing?
To me, what you just described sounds like my dog is now going to play on the iPad as much as my son, and I'll be going, "God damn it, Scruffy, get off the iPad!" Like, what is it?
So the system itself is very simple. It's these buttons that you can record your voice into, and then when you press the button, a word comes out. So people will typically begin with a button like outside. So you put by the front door, you take a button, you record yourself saying outside, and then whenever the button gets pressed, outside comes out. And whenever you leave the house or come back in, you hit the word outside. Whenever you notice your dog wants to go outside, you hit the word outside. And so the cool thing is that most dogs eventually learn to press the button when they want to go outside. And then maybe you introduce another button for play, or another button for water, or another button for food. And over time, many dogs, perhaps most dogs, will eventually press the buttons to kind of ask for what they want. And that kind of level of specificity, that kind of ability to be very kind of specific about what it is that an animal, a dog or a cat wants, it seems as though dogs and cats find that level like very rewarding.
It's absolutely incredible. And I know that you guys have had an incredible kind of journey, Leo, as we spoke about on our kind of pre-call. But let's really kind of go into this a little deeper. What are some of the amazing success stories that you've seen through your customers that you can share with our, veterinary audience? And then I'll just stop there because I want to ask you 5 more questions at the same time. So just one at a time.
Yeah. So when we started working with people in the spring, so Christina, the person who originally sorted all this out, I think she'd been working with her dog for a year or more. But when we started working with people in the spring, a lot of people had achieved really high levels of success with their dogs. They taught their dogs dozens of buttons, and just over the course of 4 or 5 months. So that was on its own very impressive. One of the most impressive people we started working with, her name was Alexis Devine. She had a dog named Bunny. I think at the time, Bunny had 40 or 50 words. And Alexis didn't have a TikTok account at the time, but after working together and joining with the group that we'd put together, she created a TikTok account. And within about 3 or 4 weeks, she'd had like 1 million followers on TikTok. And anyway, she now has over 7 million. One of the coolest things from the vet perspective is it's worth just checking out her account. First of all, if you're at all interested in this space, go to What About Bunny, all one word, on TikTok and on Instagram. One thing that was really interesting was this video that showed Bunny apparently describing an injury that Bunny had in her paw. At the beginning of the video, you can see Bunny saying that she's upset, and Alexis asks her, why are you upset? And Bunny says, stranger, there's a button for stranger, and paw, and then approaches Alexis, presents her paw, and in her paw was like a thorn of some sort, some kind of thistle that had gotten, it was a foxtail in particular that had, and a bunch of kind of these were stuck into her paw. So that was quite remarkable. And I think a lot of people, especially who really cared about dogs and cats and who understood just how hard it was for them to communicate when they were in pain, were, immediately inspired.
That's wild. Yeah, so incredible. I mean, the next, I guess, the thing that comes to my mind is what kind of crossover have you had into the pet health space because of the product, or, inquiries, or, collaboration opportunities? Anything happen yet that's really kind of cool?
We have not done anything there specifically. We are talking with kind of leaders in the vet space. We do have a lot of people who are enthusiastic about what we're doing, but we are still at the very beginning stages of working out like what the right way to collaborate is. Our goal as a company is to help people become as successful as they can with buttons. I mean, selfishly, the more successful they are, the more successful we are. So we really want to get to the point where dogs and cats are able to communicate exactly what they need, and maybe even communicate things about different body parts or when they're in pain, that kind of thing. So that's what that's what our goal is. And we think that once we kind of get there, this would be something that would be very obviously interesting to the people in the animal health space.
One of my favorite sayings that ex CEO of IDEX, the diagnostic company, had it was that he said that we giving the voice to a pet, because by doing blood work, you can know what hurts, what's not working, and essentially you're kind of allowing pets to communicate their problems through the blood work, which I thought it was really cool through that lens. So I think it's like you're doing it on a different and profound level, and with such a simple technology, you're just essentially, it sounds like, just such a cool discovery. You did mention a couple of times to articulate pain or discomfort. Did you think of any other application of this? Immediately to me, because in this hospital environment, comes to mind if hospitalized pet wants to eat or drink or something like that. Any other applications like that that you were thinking from the sort of medical perspective?
So none immediately come to mind. Probably the closest would be maybe something like vets who are interested in addressing behavioral issues. So we have a lot of anecdotal reports from people who are using buttons that their learners, as we call them, their dogs and cats, are experiencing less in the way of anxiety. With the buttons, it's not so much just that you can potentially understand with a level of specificity what it is your dog or your cat is trying to say to you, but there is the potential, and this is even more exciting, for your dog or your cat to know that you understood them, right? If you've got a dog or a cat who is barking because they want to play with a ball or something, and you say no, no ball, then the dog or the cat might say, oh, you don't actually fully understand what I'm asking for, so I'm going to, even though I didn't get the thing that I wanted, I'm going to keep barking because maybe you will give it to me, because I haven't really received a no, because we haven't had that level of communication. And so with the buttons, the communication seems like it can be a lot more specific and precise, and dogs and cats end up complaining less.
Yeah, it's so amazing. Leo, I mean, one, it's just so great to be able to tote the Canadian horn. So I'm super happy that you're Canadian, like me and Ivan, and tell the whole world that. But, one of the things that I think is incredible is your use of TikTok as a platform. Who's the brainchild behind that? How did that happen? Is it just good timing? Can you give us a little bit more of the story there? I think I'm seeing over 500 million views that mention FluentPet on TikTok.
Yeah, it's we've been pretty popular there. We did not have any particular strategy with respect to social media, except that when people got together and when we created the small little community in the spring of 2020, we definitely encouraged people to create TikTok accounts, because the people who had created a TikTok account were finding that their videos of their dogs were getting hundreds of thousands and millions of views in fairly short order. So TikTok as a channel is very friendly, and has been very friendly, to the kind of content that talking dogs are able to produce. It's just the way TikTok works is they promote videos that people watch multiple times, right? Or that people spend a long time watching. And so if there's a thing that's very surprising, like a dog pressing a button or a person doing a magic trick, those videos end up becoming very popular, and TikTok believes that they're very interesting to people. And so they surface them and show them to a lot more people.
That's so cool. It's interesting that it's almost like, the product, I'm just thinking of sort of a secondary market of this, is that not only it's a popular product and it doesn't mean things to dogs, but also people that use it and post on TikTok. It's almost like an instrument, because dogs are doing smart things definitely would get attention on TikTok. So you're also giving that boost of dopamine and guaranteed some popularity on the platform. So people not only like your product, but they also like because they are liked on TikTok because of your product. It's an interesting thought. But when you said about the dogs now being able to communicate, I keep thinking about my 2-year-old. So I have a 9-year-old son and I have a 2-year-old daughter. And she's right on the verge of kind of composing the sentences. She just knows a couple words, and I could see the frustration where she's trying to say what she wants, but then she can't. And it's like, she'll be crying and screaming until you really point. Like she now starts pointing to things that she wants. But I would imagine that's the same thing that dogs are going through. They're like, God damn it, why can't you just understand what I need? So it'll be interesting to see if there will be, some sort of a long-term studies of the happiness of the pets in the household because owners can understand their pets better. I don't know if you're even thinking in that direction, or there's any measurement of happiness of dogs in that perspective because this product is used. And can you effectively say that pets are happier in the household when this is utilized?
We have a large, probably the largest animal language study in the world that we're doing as a product of people kind of working with buttons. People don't actually need to use our buttons to participate in this study. As a part of that, we do comprehensive intakes with detailed evaluations. I think we've had over 6,000 people enroll in this study. So people will indicate a lot of personality traits from their dogs or cats. We have them do, in the case of dogs, a C bark, or in the case of cats, a fee bark, which is a standardized personality assessment of dogs and cats. And those are the kinds of things that we will be looking at over the course of years of use of buttons. We strongly suspect that we will see much happier dogs and cats, not just because of potentially the ability to not be as frustrated, but also because people end up just paying a lot more attention to their dog or their cat as a result of button use.
Yeah, it's super fascinating. And it's really interesting too, Leo, like, your phone's going to ring, your email inbox is going to bing after going on the show, because we have a lot of large veterinary groups that listen to the show. And I'm sure that when people listen to this episode, they're going to be thinking of potential collaboration. So just so you're forewarned, like we may blow up your inbox, which is probably a great point to kind of ask you a couple questions. How do people check you out? How do people get a hold of you? And how do people buy these buttons if they want to grab them?
Yeah, the easiest way to order buttons is to just go to our website, which is fluent.pet, as in I'm fluent in dog or I'm fluent in Spanish. That is by far the easiest way. We do have one SKU that's available on Amazon if you want to get one, a little bit quicker. And then we also encourage people to check out how.theycantalk.org, because that's where the big forum is. And we've got people posting there all the time with really cool videos. It's where people can get tips or tricks on how to communicate with their dog and get support when they might themselves experience some frustration.
Super awesome.
Well, we blew through 20 minutes as we usually do. It's pretty quickly. But what a fascinating product. I can't wait for, longitudinal studies on this and the happiness of dogs in the households. We always ask two questions at the end of the show. One of them, is there a book, TED Talk, movie, YouTube video, anything that you've seen that inspired you recently that you would like to share with our listeners?
So this was not something that as particularly recent, but a movie that I've always found very inspiring. I think watch it on a regular basis, was the movie Gattica. I thought it came out in the late 90s, and it was a movie that, just was a total inspiration for me in terms of trying to achieve the impossible.
Awesome. And then the last question, is there another innovator in the pet health space that you think we should have on the show?
A friend of mine, Scott Zentak, he's the CEO of Upetcha. He's got an additive that he's developing that actually makes dog and cat breath smell really good for hours. So I think it's super cool, and I think you'd really enjoy talking about it.
Thank you so much for listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast. If you want to hear about our new episodes, please follow us on any social media channel. Also, you can check out our website at veterinarynnovationpodcast.com. See you next week.